What's going on, my good people? Mike Hidalgo here. Thank you for joining me with another FCP Euro DIY. Today we're going to be working on a 1988 Porsche 911. Today on the Carrera behind me, we are going to be covering how to install and upgrade your sway bars. In front of me is an Eibach kit, which is available on FCP Euro. This is a three-way adjustable kit. These are a 24 and 25 mil bar, and they're really going to help bring the performance out on the 911 behind us. We've already done quite a few upgrades. We have a KW install, we have brake DIY, and we have some new trailing arm bushings in there and all that good stuff that will help improve the handling on this car, and this will be the final bow to the whole thing. This should be a pretty straightforward install, but before we get into it, let's take a look at some of the tools we're going to need for this DIY. All right, for this DIY, we have a torque wrench. A flex head torque wrench is going to be the move here. Same with a flex head ratchet. These are both 3/8 drive. We have a 19 and a 17 millimeter wrench. We also have those sizes in sockets, as well as a deep 17, so shallow 17, deep 17, shallow 19. We have a deep 13, 8 mil hex, and an 8 mil socket for our Zerk fittings. We have an extension, flathead screwdriver, some torque seal, an electric ratchet should we need it, as well as a caliper to help us set the lengths of our end links. Second set of hands is not a horrible idea when doing sway bars. They can be a little bit funny to work with. And other than that, let's go ahead and get started. All right, we're going to be starting at the front of the car. Our first step is going to be to remove this pan here, which is housing the mounting points, or one of the mounting points for the sway bar, as well as a couple other bits. So we have an 8 mil hex 2 on the back, and we have two 17s up front. So we'll start with the two 17s, break those babies free. We have two 8 mil hex. Now with this baby down, we have access to the two 13 millimeter bolts that are still holding the sway bar in place. So let's get those out of the way. And the other, if you're having a hard time, spray a little bit of lubricant on the ends of the bars and the bushings. We had these apart a little while ago when we did control arms, and I lubricated everything nicely going back together, which also helps with the removal. I'm going to set this bar on our table, and we're going to work on working out these old bushings next. I'm going to take a flathead and just use these to pry the old bushings out. All right, while I have you here, let's press our new ones in. I like to put a little bit of grease on the outside of the bushings just to keep them from getting squeaky on us as the car is going down the road. All right, with our bushings in on the control arms, our next step is going to be to set the lengths on the end links. So let's head over to the workbench. We'll set those up, then we'll come back, bolt them to the car, and then we'll have something to hang our sway bar off of. So now we have our end links, which just come at kind of a rogue length from the factory. And so our goal is to get the length of them to 80 millimeters. So what I find easiest is just keeping the two bolts in them and measuring from the center of the bolt to the other center of the bolt with a caliper. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm just going to kind of rest them like so. I already have my caliper set to 80 millimeters, and I'm simply looking at where it lands from bolt to bolt. And right now I need to come out a little bit. So I will I'll do one turn. And again, it's all gonna be different based on, might be a little bit different on how they come in to you, but just using the hardware as your points for the center of the eyelets is gonna be, in my opinion, a bit easier. And then I'm just kind of aiming for the center of the bolts. So once we have them set, I'm just gonna turn down this lock nut. We're gonna have to change the orientation of these anyways, but just to keep them from changing in length while we're bouncing things around. We have some grease that comes with our sway bar kit, one tube for the front, one tube for the back. We're gonna rip this off and coat the inside of our bushings that are gonna live on the outer part of the stop here. This stuff can be messy, so I do recommend some gloves if you have them. And we're just gonna coat the inside of the bushings as best as we can with this stuff, and then slip it onto the bar. We're going to take our brackets. We're going to be reusing the OE brackets. I'm going to put a little bit of this excess grease on the inside. Just slide those babies on. Once this is on the car, we can clean off any excess grease that we have, but right now it's going to be kind of inevitable to get it on. Now with that, I think our next move is going to be to take the end links, get those secured to the control arms so that we have something hanging for then the control arm to hang to. You can also go ahead and bolt the sway bar up now and then do the end links after. There's really no right or way answer. It just depends on how you want to go about it. So either way, let's head over to the car and go on from there. We're going to feed our link and bracket assembly through. It's going to droop down for a little bit, that's fine. We'll have our plate on the other side, just like this side with the washer and locking nut. All right, and then this will go up once we get the bar in place, and we'll rotate it so that it can go through the bar. But for now, let's let that hang out there. Let's do the exact same thing on the other side. Now let's get the sway bar over here, and probably because these are sitting upwards instead of hanging down like I was thinking in my head, we're gonna get the two 13s situated first. You'll notice these brackets have a funny bend to them. If you will, the more bent up bend is going to be for where the 8mm hex bolt goes through. So when it's sitting on here, it's sitting like this. If you had it the other way around, it would sit pretty unhappy and you wouldn't have a hole big enough for that hex bolt to go through. So just something to keep in mind. We're going to pop this baby down. All right, with that in place, let's get the end links attached to the bar now. All right, now with the bar in place and the end links attached, before we get the shield back on, we still have to tighten down these two 13s. What I like to do is get the bracket on the other end and just pretend that we had the shield in place already. Get the 8mm hex started by hand. And as long as those can sit in and get snugged up, like basically what I'm doing is just using the bolt through the bracket as an alignment tool so that when we tighten down the 13s, everything is kind of where it's supposed to be, if that makes sense. So might be a little bit overkill, but I think it'll help us when we're fighting the shield to go back in. No more than 20 to 25 Newton meters. All right, let's drop the 8mm hexes again. And now we can finalize the install of our shield and our spacers that are included, which will drop the shield down just a little bit so that I can clear the new sway bar. And then these babies, we're gonna torque down to about 35 Newton meters. With that, we have the end links left to snug up, so let's do those now. First, we're gonna snug them down using our 17mm socket and ratchet and our 17mm wrench to counterhold. Now we're gonna switch to the torque wrench and torque these down to 54 to 55 Newton meters. And don't forget to lock down the collars on your end links as well. Just using a 19 to tighten that down. And since we're still in this kind of area, we're gonna tackle the sway bar next. So we're gonna undo the end links off of the trailing arms. I have a 19mm wrench that I'm just gonna use to break these babies free. All right, now we have a couple 13s to tackle for the actual sway bar itself. I have a little bit of a mess going here just because we are in the middle of installing this engine back into the car. And with that, we're taking advantage of the opportunity to show you good people how to install these upgraded Eibach sway bars. So we're gonna grease up our bushing, split this baby open, get it on the bar. We can clean up whatever grease we get on parts that don't need it. Just gonna be liberal with the amount of grease that's going in here. there's little channels inside of the bushing, and those are going to allow for the grease to stay in there. And when you get your Zerk fittings on and re-grease, it'll go through the hole here in the bushing, and just there's a channel in the full middle of it that'll help circulate that all the way around, which is really nice. So, you know, whether you choose to do it every oil change or every other oil change, you'll be able to always keep that nice and greased. Now we're going to take our end links, and there's a couple measurements you can use depending on what setting you're going to go for on your sway bar. So we're going to go with the middle, and for that I believe we're going to set it to 87 millimeters, meaning between eyelet and eyelet they're going to be 87 millimeters long. Let me double check what we have here. Yes, and that'll allow us to put it in the middle hole and set the settings correctly. So I'm just going to take one bolt out. This is the one that's going to go into our control arm, and I'm going to set these both really quick, and then we'll get them on the car, we'll get the bar on the car and go from there. This baby is just going to go into the control arm like so, and we'll take the nut off and have it ready to go so that we can slip the bar through it. All right, let me do the exact same thing to the other side, and then we'll pick it up with bringing the bar over. And now we're going to take our reinforcement bracket, get that baby up here. And having a second set of hands is not a bad idea when doing this job. Even doing this on the lift, it can get a little bit tricky. So doing this on the ground is probably not any easier. But we're going to do our best to just get those lined up. And we're just reusing the factory 13 millimeter bolts. All right, we're going to snug these babies up with the electric ratchet. No more than 30 to 35 Newton meters if you're going to torque these down. We're going to grab 2 19ths to lock this bolt in. These control arm end bolts get tightened down. These 19ths get tightened down to 85 Newton meters. And we'll do the collars on the links. And for these, you can just use an 8mm socket or wrench and just gently snug them up. And with that, we have our end links situated, the bar is bolted up. We have the new Zerk fittings. Again, recommend to replace the original locking washers with something that's fresh and maybe a little bit of a bigger washer on top of that to help support the larger holes for the new bracket assemblies. Overall, my good people, it's a pretty straightforward DIY, something you can do at home on the garage floor or in the driveway. You don't need a lift for it. However, the lift is always nice, of course. Hopefully you learned a thing or two on this video. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments on what we did today, leave those in the comment section below. And if you like this video and you'd like to see more, please consider subscribing. We're making new DIYs all the time, even an engine out one on this car specifically. As always, thank you for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.